What is up, everyone, and welcome to some more F1 23 My Team Career Mode. And we are here for round number 19 of Season 5 of our Jaguar Racing career. And we're going to be in Mexico for the Mexico City Grand Prix. And this is going to be a very, very critical race for myself, because this is largely, I would say, going to determine how the championship could play out. This has been a very up and down track for me over the course of the past few years. And I never really know whether I'm going to get a good result here or whether I'm just going to, get absolutely dominated, swamped by the cars around me. It could really go either way, the way I see things. So there's a chance we, finish on the podium here. There's a chance we finish 15th here, for all I know. And I really don't know what race I'm about to have. So, this is critical. No change in the championship order, but you can see that last race we had our worst result of the season, finishing 17th. And we kind of need a good race here, because as you're about to see, as I've been alluding to, as we look at the drivers' standings, you can see I'm 47 points ahead of Lando Norris in the drivers' championship. However, the upcoming races are very up and down for me, and this is probably the one I'm most nervous for out of the next 5 races. We've got Mexico, then we've got Brazil, Portugal, Las Vegas, and Abu Dhabi. And this is the race that I think is probably my weakest on the calendar. So if we can get a good result here and maintain our lead over Lando Norris, I have every confidence in the world that we are going to hold on to this championship lead. But we need to get a good result. We need to ideally beat Norris, if not certainly minimize the amount of points that he scores over us. And that should hopefully give us the power to keep him behind in the championship for the remainder of the season. Only 4 races left after this one. So yeah, this is the critical point in the championship, I would say, that is going to determine basically everything. Like I said, we came off of a bit of a weird result in Qatar, I would say, because we actually won the sprint race, but then I just had so many issues with tyres overheating in the actual Grand Prix that I was completely powerless to stop everyone in the entire race basically overtaking me, with the exception of the 2 Alpha Tauris, and I believe it was Kevin Magnussen was the other one who failed to overtake me, but everybody else got past me. And obviously we had a couple of retirements, including my teammate Jack Doohan, who was on for a fairly decent result actually. So absolutely frustrating as hell that he couldn't get a good result there, but hopefully he'll be able to find some form here in Mexico, get himself a good result, and get us back in the championship fight for the Constructors' Championship as well. That's the big one that I'm really relying on Doohan to come up big in. Practice went fine. It was a bit of a weird session where the track was drying, so my times weren't necessarily particularly competitive, but in reality we actually had a fairly decent session. I felt pretty comfortable around this circuit, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to get a good result as we move into qualifying now as well. And we're going to hit the track for our first flying lap on a fresh set of soft compound tyres, and we are going to round the final corner, see what kind of times we can do. I don't know what the pole time is going to be around here. I reckon it'll be in the 1:14s if I had to guess, and we do a 1:15.9 to kick things off. So we're definitely going to need quite a bit of improvement over that one. You can see even Sonoda in the Alfa Romeo has gone faster than us at the moment. You would expect that's somebody who I should be beating fairly comprehensively. But for all my strengths around this circuit, supposedly, I could only muster a 2/10 improvement on my second flying lap. However, it was a very tight field here, so that actually took me from P14 to P9 with a less than 2/10 improvement. And that sees me through rather comfortably in the end into Q2. So yeah, you can see Leclerc went fastest there with a 1:15.3, so we were only 4/10 off him. Doohan through in P7 and eliminated here. Joe and Hulkenberg, not too surprising, but both Aston Martins out. Hauger ahead of Verstappen, who beat out the 2 Alpha Tauris of Stroll and De Vries. Wow, I was not expecting to see both Aston Martins out in Q1 here, but Sonoda and Sargent both making it through in the Alfa Romeo, and the Haas simply left no room for them to make it through. And the Williams also as well, looking very strong around here. So we'll see what those guys can do as well. But meanwhile, it's going to be 19th and 20th for the Aston Martins. Unbelievable, especially considering I'm pretty sure Verstappen was on the podium in last race. I can't remember if he won or not, but he was certainly on the podium. So, yeah, that's a bit of a shock for him to be so far down the order now We go P3 on our first flying lap on a used set of soft compound tyres. It was a 1:16.0, but that left us quite a bit of scope to improve, and we need to as well, because we're currently in the drop zone, P12 at the moment, and we will be knocking Liam Lawson out of qualifying if we go faster than him here, which you can see we don't have a great run through that final corner, just turning a little bit too early, and as we come through the actual final corner, I said final corner before, but it wasn't, the actual final corner, we get a pretty good run. We improve by almost 6/10. It's a 1:15.4, and that sees us through in P7. So we're looking okay. We're looking like we should be sort of in the middle of the pack in Q3, I would hope. But one thing I was quite excited to see, Jack Doohan, top of the session. We were actually only 3/10 off him. So it really is just going to come down to what kind of lap we can deliver in Q3. Enzo Fittipaldi making it through in P5. Solid result for him. Meanwhile, knocked out here, Lawson, the two McLarens of Piastri and Magnussen, then Leclerc, Tsunoda and Sargent. Tsunoda and Sargent, not too surprising. Lawson, not amazingly surprising, but if one Williams was going to get through, I would have expected that it would be him and not Fittipaldi. But there you go, Fittipaldi had a great result there. And then, yeah, Leclerc and the two McLarens, maybe the drivers who should have done a little bit better there. So, yeah, we will see what we can do now in Q3. We go around on a used set to start once again. It's a 1:15.3, so this was actually our fastest time of the weekend we just did on a used set of soft compound tyres. Now that made me very optimistic for our chances of getting a good result on our final flying lap in Q3 on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. We are 1/10 up going into the final sector, and it was going to be no worse than P5. However, I just didn't seem to get the improvement that I was expecting I would, given how good my my run on a set of used compound tyres was. We still managed to improve by about 0.3 of a second here as we come up to the line. It's a 1:15.0, not quite into the 1:14s, and in the end, it's only good enough for P3. I say only, that's honestly better than I was expecting at the start of the weekend, so I'll take it.
We're all ready for tomorrow's race, but before we begin, let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid. Perez, Sainz and Robinson. With qualifying wrapped up, we now have our grid line up for the big race tomorrow. Be sure to join us then for what will no doubt be a fantastic race.
P3 and P6 in the end for Jaguar Racing. Sergio Perez on pole in his home race. Will he be able to convert that into a victory at home? Certainly would be a great storyline, wouldn't it? But the crucial thing here is that we've out-qualified Lando Norris, so we've got to try our hardest to try and keep him behind for the duration of the Grand Prix. We will see if we can extend our advantage in the championship over him as we get into the Mexican Grand Prix.
In the 60s, Mexico City would be the season-ending race. That's no longer the case, but it is always a party in these parts. Welcome to the Mexico City Grand Prix. 2,285 metres above sea level, the altitude will test the driver's fitness and their engine's efficiency. 17 corners, 7 to the left, 10 to the right, that make up a 2.6-mile circuit equipped with 2 DRS zones. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. It's Sergio Perez on pole today. A very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Robinson, Norris, Russell, Doohan, Gasly, Albon, Ocon, Fittipaldi, Liam Lawson, Oscar Piastri, Magnussen, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Sargent, Joe, Hulkenberg, Hauger, Verstappen, Stroll, and Nick de Vries rounds off the grid. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Nothing for Alex Jakes to say on the introduction here, so I'll say something instead. Sergio Perez, he's on the back of an unprecedented qualifying. Definitely didn't expect to see him get pole position here. And if I don't win this race, I think that he would be my top choice for Victor here. I think he'll be extra motivated. You know, a lot of people calling him washed up at this stage as well, and that he should retire from the sport, not having the best of seasons. Obviously, he did have that victory in Monza, but, you know, I would really like to see him win his home race. I think it would be a fantastic result for him, and we will see what we can do now as we get ready to go on the formation lap.
Right, let's get
the championship does often get wrapped up in Mexico City, but I believe it's mathematically impossible for me to do it today, no matter what Norris's result is. With 4 races to go, I would need there's a sprint in there as well, so I'm trying to think what that would be. I would need a 112-point advantage by the end of this race over Lando Norris to mathematically have wrapped up the championship. That's something drivers who are a bit more dominant than me tend to do. Obviously, Max Verstappen tends to do it even earlier, and I'm sure they've wrapped up the championship by Japan at this rate that he's going in 2024. But no, it's just a little joke. Japan's round 4, of course. Yeah, as we get ready to go here, we had a pretty good parking. We're going to see if we can challenge Sainz on the run down into turn 1, but it is a long run. We'll see what we can do as the lights come on. And the lights go out, and we've had a good getaway compared to Carlos Sainz there. We've already overtaken him, and we're up into P2. And we're going to see if we can challenge the hometown hero, Sergio Perez, on the run down to turn 1. But as we go through the second phase of the start, you can see Lando Norris now is going to try and put a challenge on me up into P2. Are we going to be able to hold off round the outside of this next corner as we go through the double chicaned corner? And it seems like we are just about able to overtake Lando Norris once again. So we've held on to that P2 that we took off of Carlos Sainz, who's plummeted down the order all the way to P5. Retiring at the end of this season, Carlos Sainz, along with Nico Hülkenberg, his former teammate back in 2017/18 at Renault, a team that obviously no longer is presenting that way on the Formula 1 grid. Existing as Alpine now instead. But yeah, they were once teammates, Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg, and they will both be retiring at the end of this season. Nico Hülkenberg at the ripe old age of about 38 or 39, if I had to guess, and then Sainz a little bit younger than that, I believe. Yeah, we'll see whether we can hold off the British drivers in our wake. Lando Norris, George Russell, the two drivers who I've probably been fighting closest with for the championship this season. Russell's not really ever looked like he was a significant threat for the championship lead, but he's always sort of been bubbling under. Him and Oscar Piastri, probably the two drivers that looked like if there was a really bad run of form for both myself and Norris, they were the most likely drivers to get involved. Lando Norris, speaking of getting involved, is going to try and go for a move up the inside, but can't quite seem to make it work on this occasion, and we have held them off round the outside and holding on to P2 for the time being. But Sergio Perez looking like he might break away out of my DRS very, very quickly here, and we may have a bit of a defensive battle going on our hands today in Mexico as we try to keep cars behind. Meanwhile, one of the Aston Martins you can see on the minimap has pitted there. So, assumedly some damage for either Hauger or Verstappen. I'm not sure which driver that is, but I'm sure they'll be very disappointed with that because they are having a fairly strong season, but not a remarkable one by Verstappen's sky-high standards. Norris and Russell going for moves on me here down into turn 1 on lap 4. Norris seems like he's pulled it off on this occasion, and yeah, not really much I could do to fight back on that one. Russell putting pressure on me has already taken me out of DRS range of Lando Norris, so now we're just going to have to try and focus on minimising the damage that Lando Norris can do to us and seeing if we can get back at him later in the race, I would imagine. But you can see Russell's continued pressure on me has put me almost 2 seconds down on Lando Norris already, and that is not really what I was hoping for here as we speed through the lap a little bit. We'll see if we can defend from Russell at the very least, but you can see as we go through this DRS zone, he's going to go for the overtake and he's gone up into P3, so we'll have to see if we can fight him back. We will of course get DRS for the main straight. Meanwhile, as you can see on the timing tracker, Liam Lawson, having qualified 11th, has already made his way up into P6 ahead of his teammate Enzo Fittipaldi and everything. He's had a really strong start here. Yes, he's on the soft compound tyres, but still, it's been a very strong start for the New Zealander, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he mounts a challenge for some big points here today in Mexico. But meanwhile for us, we're going to try and make a move on George Russell around the outside as we go down into turn 1. You've seen drivers do it before, and today it's no exception. Round the outside, switch to the inside, and we get the overtake done. I felt like we made a bit of contact there, but fortunately there was no damage, so all good. And then we speed a little bit through the lap, and you can see that George Russell may be going to do the exact same thing he did before. We outbrake ourselves a little bit there, do a little bit of damage, or not a little bit of damage, but a little bit of contact with George Russell. Definitely, probably my fault if I had to hold my hands up and say whose fault it was. I'd say it was probably mine because I turned in, had a bit of an oversteer moment, which is just what caused me to make a bit of contact with George Russell. But no damage, no harm, no foul, no penalties, nothing, and we should just be able to re-overtake him on the run down to turn 1 now and get ourselves back into a podium position. Meanwhile, you can see Perez and Norris breaking away at pace out in front, and yeah, I'd be very surprised if it's anyone other than those two winning the race at the end of everything. So yeah, we're gonna make our way onto the end of lap 6 now. George Russell once again making the overtake happen on me, and Liam Lawson very close now. He has closed us up due to our insistent battling here. Lawson and Sainz are involved, but the good news is there's a bit of a gap back from, I believe it's Gasly in P7. There's a bit of a gap back from him to Albon and Doohan battling it out over P8 at the moment. So I'd say we actually have a pretty good chance of holding on to some strong points, but obviously I want to minimise the amount of damage, minimise the dent that Lando Norris can put in our championship lead. So I'm going to be fighting over all of these positions as best I can. George Russell did make the overtake, and it looks like he's going to hold on to that. And actually, we're coming under a bit of pressure there from Lawson, but we've held him off for the time being. And now we're going to see if we can continue to hold Liam Lawson off as we go into lap 9. George Russell breaking away out of that DRS range. It's going to have to be another defensive masterclass from myself. Lawson picked the wrong side initially, realised there wasn't going to be space on the outside, had to switch to the inside, and that's exactly where I wanted him, because that's where I felt like I was going to be better equipped to defend from him. We get the outside once again as we exit the second chicane there, and we hold on to P4 for the time being. So we're off the podium, 2 seconds down on our compatriot George Russell, but holding off Liam Lawson nicely, diving back up the inside of him, and yeah, we should be able to hold on to this position for now at the very least. But you know, Liam Lawson, he's had some absolutely astounding moments here this season, 2 podiums of course, and at one point looked like he might even win a couple of the races. You know, he looked like he might be able to catch me if he had a couple more laps in the Canadian Grand Prix. We ended up holding him off there, and we also held him off when he was battling us quite hard for victory in the Japanese Grand Prix a couple of videos ago as well, which in the end we managed to get the victory there too. But yeah, Carlos Sainz now is the one piling some pressure on us as he's managed to get ahead of Liam Lawson. Maybe Lawson's tyres just going off a tiny bit, but he's managing to stay in the fight, stay ahead of Gasly, and the gap behind to Albon and Doohan still is quite large. So no matter what happens here, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about our chances of getting a solid points finish. So we don't have to worry about that too much. Today's race is just all about damage limitation, seeing how good the result I can get will be as we make our way onto lap 11 now. Will there be an attempt to overtake me from Carlos Sainz? It seems like he's quite far back here, but you can see he's closing down at a rate of knots, and he's going to go for a move up the inside. A bit of a half-hearted one, I would say, from Carlos Sainz, just testing the waters, seeing if I was maybe going to lock up or something like that. You know, you never know when those kinds of things are going to happen, but in the end, nothing doing for Carlos Sainz. Lap 12, and he does actually end up making the overtake here, so Carlos Sainz has made his way up into P4, but once again, he's done it in a bit of an inopportune position, I would say, because this leaves me with the perfect opportunity. As long as I don't get a snap of oversteer or something out of this corner, we should have the opportunity to go for a bit of a DRS overtake on Carlos Sainz. I can't really see a world in which we're so slow that we don't manage to close down these couple of tenths that split us. We dummy him to the inside, we go back to the outside. We've got off the battery now, but we've still got the DRS, and that's carrying us through the corner, and we're going to try it and go around the outside of Carlos Sainz. He's actually very close to covering us off there, but we have managed to keep Carlos Sainz behind, and that is going to be us up into P4. So yeah, we just have a few more laps to hold on before the pit stop on lap 16, and we're doing pretty well holding off Carlos Sainz. But that said, he does make the overtake down into turn 1 on this occasion, and there's not really going to be an opportunity for us to overtake him back because, well, you know how this works. There is no DRS on this section because the person who has DRS for the pit straight will also have it for this straight as well. There is no detection point, and so that is how that works. So yeah, we're going to have to just hold on to Carlos Sainz and you know, see if we can stay in his DRS for the next DRS zone to hopefully make sure that we can keep our gap to Liam Lawson and Pierre Gasly behind. But unfortunately, there is a safety car deployed. So yeah, my undercut strategy here not really going to come to fruition, unfortunately. The safety car, I'm not really even sure why that came out, quite frankly, because nobody's retired from the race. I think Ocon may have been caught up in an incident there by the looks of things, given that he's kind of fallen away from the rest of the pack now. But yeah, obviously, the strategy here is going to be to just box on hards to the end. I imagine pretty much everyone in the entire race will be doing it, and if anyone doesn't do it, I think that's incredibly foolish. We almost go into the back of Carlos Sainz because we were not respecting the delta just for a split second there. And yeah, we're going to be coming into the pit lane, going to be going onto a set of hard compound tyres, and that should take us to the end of the race. If there's a late safety car, then maybe, who knows, maybe we'll box again and try and do a bit of a masterclass as we cut through the field. But yeah, coming into the pit lane, Doohan's coming in as well. Hopefully there's a big enough gap between the two of us that he can benefit from that. But yeah, definitely the best thing that happened as a result of this was that Sainz was held up by my teammate, I believe, and as a result we've managed to overtake Carlos Sainz and get out of the pit lane in what is P5 currently, but Pierre Gasly yet to pit. He'll be coming into the pit lane at the end of lap 15, and so yeah, we've managed to overtake Gasly and make our way back into P4. So yeah, we're going to see if we can maybe challenge for a podium position again, as these cars in front, you know, they are going to have pretty decent pace, but you know, they're not the only ones with pretty decent pace in this race, and I'm certainly impressing myself with how much faster I've been than I expected. So we're going to see if we can maybe try and put the moves on Russell and even maybe Norris, but we get a bit of an oversteer moment there, and that is going to compromise our run the whole way down this next straight. So yeah, it's not going to be easy, but I reckon we have a chance to get ourselves back onto the podium. However, you can see that we're just so far down on them already. We've managed to close them up once again, but I didn't have a great run through that sequence of corners, and so that's going to compromise my time a little bit. And yeah, I just can't seem to get it hooked up quite as much as these guys can. And as a result, we are maybe going to fall out of that DRS range through this next section, because this is probably the most difficult section of the track for me. As you might remember if you watched my league race video around here about a week and a half ago, by the time this video comes out, maybe verging on 2 weeks actually. Yeah, you may remember that I was just really struggling around here to keep things sort of you know, on the track in that section, the middle sector. So yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult for us to stay with these guys until the DRS gets enabled on lap 19. It will be. So we've got one more lap to try and stay with them. But you can see George Russell already with the slipstream on Lando Norris just breaking away, and it seems like it's going to be a bit of a fight for the win between the two Red Bulls and Lando Norris, and that is honestly not really what I'm hoping to see, because for the Constructors' Championship this is absolutely great for Red Bull running in first and third, and they're just going to break away from us by a lot. So we really could use Jack Doohan having a strong result. Otherwise, I'm going to need to turn in one of my best runs of form in probably the history of me doing F1 career mode, if I want any chance of single-handedly carrying our team to Constructors' Glory, and we'll need a bit of luck as well at this stage in the season as well. So yeah, it's not going to be easy, not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination, but what we can really do to help ourselves out is hold off Carlos Sainz, hold off Liam Lawson, and you know, just try and keep hold of this P4 if we can. Carlos Sainz going for a move up the inside into turn 1, but in the end he can't quite make the move work. So yeah, that is going to be us holding on to P4 for now, and we are focusing on an Aston Martin car here, and this is Dennis Hauger retiring from the Grand Prix, my former teammate. He is out of the race, and yeah, well, he didn't have the best of qualifyings, he wasn't running in the best of positions, and now he has a DNF to show for it as well. Meanwhile, our race actually was pretty quiet for a few laps after that, but Liam Lawson did eventually get an overtake done on us on lap 25. He'd managed to get ahead of Carlos Sainz by that point, and he's now moved up into P4. Meanwhile, the pack out front just breaking away by a considerable margin. But as we come onto the main straight now, you can see that is Lawson first, then me, and then Carlos Sainz a little bit further down on the two of us. We will have the DRS here, so I think we have a pretty good chance of fighting back against Liam Lawson down into turn 1. You can see we're going to dummy him to the inside once again, and then we're going to move to the outside. It's my signature move. I do it at every track when I've got the DRS. I will dummy you. Don't hesitate to expect that if you're racing with me at any point. We actually got off track there a little bit, but we do manage to make the overtake on Liam Lawson nonetheless. We were slightly ahead of him when we went off track, so it's fair game. Don't have to give the position back, but he's going to want us to give the position back here, and he actually tries to go for a move around the outside on us. Not really sure what Liam Lawson was thinking there. Not really a position you can overtake in, and yeah, a big battle between the two of us, which eventually culminates in me holding onto the position. Now we make our way onto lap 27 here, and you can see that Liam Lawson is closing us down with that DRS once again. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for a move up the inside down into turn 1, But a bit of a half-hearted one here from Liam Lawson. We actually go deep into the corner because we were trying not to make contact with him, and as a result it compromises us a little bit. But nonetheless, we've held on, and now as we make our way onto lap 28, you can see that Liam Lawson is close to us in this DRS zone for a change. He actually didn't make a move on us down into turn 1 on lap 28, but he did there, and we had to fight that one quite hard. Struggling on the brakes a little bit now. You can see that the tyres are really starting to wear out. I've been on them for 14 laps, so it's not going to be easy to keep Liam Lawson behind. But I'm pretty optimistic that we can do it. As we make our way onto lap 30, you can see that Liam Lawson just staying with us. Carlos Sainz starting to close that gap down a bit. And just for good measure, we've also got Albon for company. Fittipaldi a little bit further down. And then I believe it is Zhou Guanyu actually completing the points positions. So somehow Jack Doohan's fallen out of the points. I don't really understand how. We've kept Lawson behind for now, but yeah, we still got another 5 laps to try and hold him off. Meanwhile, another one of my former teammates retiring from this race. That is Kevin Magnussen. He is out of the race as well, and that makes it just 20 drivers left in the race. As you can see, Norris and Perez battling over the lead a little bit. I think Norris might actually take the lead of the race here. Meanwhile, Liam Lawson making an overtake on us, and suddenly things have changed quite drastically. With the fastest lap that Lando Norris had, if he'd have been second and I'd have been fourth, he would have outscored us by 7 points. Now he's on course to outscore us by 16 points because of those 2 moves that just happened. And so we're going to have a real challenge on our hands if we want to minimise the damage that Lando Norris is going to cause to us. At least reduce it to 14 if we can get ahead of Liam Lawson. But yeah, we're really going to be in the mud here a little bit if we can't get back ahead of Liam Lawson. And for all my efforts that happened over the previous laps, as we get onto lap 36, we're still behind Liam Lawson. So it's got to be a bit of a gung-ho, all-or-nothing overtake on Liam Lawson here if I want any chance of getting P4 in this race. So we are going to try and dive back around the outside of Liam Lawson onto the final lap, and we make our overtake up into P4 once again. He held on to it, but he just couldn't hold on for the entire race, and those medium compound tyres just not working out for him. But he might try and fire back at us down this DRS zone, even though we had the DRS and the ERS. He was closing us down for a second, but it wasn't quite enough. Meanwhile, Norris has fallen back behind Sergio Perez and into P2. So once again, it's going to be a 7-point closing of the gap for Lando Norris if things stay the way to the end of the race. There's only one more DRS zone left for Lando Norris, and only one more DRS zone left for Liam Lawson to make the overtake on me. Carlos Sainz 4.5 seconds down. I don't envision that he is really going to mount much of a challenge on us. So yeah, this should be fairly comfortable. Burning the battery the whole way. Liam Lawson did close us down, but not enough to go for a move, and that should hopefully be P4 for us. As Sergio Perez and the top 3 have rounded the final corner in the order of Perez, Norris and Russell. It is going to be a win for the hometown hero, Sergio Perez, at the Mexican Grand Prix. And we now are going to round the final corner, and we are going to take P4. I'm somewhat happy with that. I think that honestly, it's a fairly good result to minimise the damage that Lando Norris is going to cause to us in the Drivers' Championship, but I feel like maybe a podium was on. Zhou Guanyu gets Driver of the Day for recovering into the points, grabbing Alfa Romeo's first points of the season, and it is P3 for us. P4 even.
But this team have done a fantastic job to make it to the checkered flag and take a well-earned victory today. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They've performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everyone at the team.
So it is Perez, Norris and Russell on the 3 steps of the podium in that order. Sergio Perez, he's having a very inconsistent season. It's kind of like how last season was for him in real life, where he just can't seem to get on top of qualifying. And if he could do that, he would be consistently winning races, I think. But, you know, you make qualifying mistakes, you get punished for it at this level. And I think with that, Red Bull will probably take the lead of the Constructors' Championship.
So let's review the drivers' standings. This result narrows the gap between our championship leader and the rest of the standings. So let's discuss, Ant. Who would you say is a contender for your driver of the day?
Well, you can't fault anything that Sergio Perez did out on the track today. He drove flawlessly, making him an easy pick.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Red Bull take over as championship leaders. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for the next one.
Yep, indeed they do. Red Bull take the lead of the Constructors' Championship. Meanwhile, we are holding on to the lead of the Drivers' Championship. However, we need to ensure that we do a good job out in our strong races of Brazil and Portugal if we want to maintain the championship lead for the remainder of the season. It is still mathematically possible for Lando Norris to catch us, and I wouldn't bet against him having some strong results to close out the season, but he needs to be perfect, whereas we just need to be pretty good. That's the difference between the expectations on us now. We have a significant margin over Lando Norris, which I hope will allow us to, if we do have a bad race or we do have a DNF, it will allow us to stay in that championship fight. Meanwhile, from a mathematical perspective, Alex Albon is now mathematically incapable of winning the championship at the end of this race. So, he looked like a bit of an early favourite for the championship, or not favourite is probably the wrong word, but an early contender for the championship, certainly. He was quite close to myself and Norris on points. I mean, he was ahead of me for a very long time while I was having those early season struggles, but once I turned things around, I managed to get ahead of him quite quickly. So, I'm sure that he'll be disappointed, but now he's just got to try and do a professional job to help his team win the Constructors' Championship. And, there are only 5 drivers who are still mathematically in contention to win the World Championship here, and that is myself, obviously, Lando Norris, and then the other 3 who are probably a bit more of an outside chance, I would say, are Russell, Piastri and Perez, but those guys will need a very fortunate run of results in these last 4 races if they want to get involved in the championship fight. So most likely it's going to be myself and Lando Norris once again showing down for those last few races to see who can walk away with the championship. Will it be a second championship for Lando Norris after he narrowly beat me to the championship in the final race in Abu Dhabi last season, or will it be a first championship for myself in the first season where I've really felt like I've been a contender? Last season we didn't seem like we were going to be a contender for a little bit. Yes, we had a strong run of form in the middle of the season, but generally speaking it was kind of just capitalising on the poor form of others that allowed me to get into the championship fight. This season, yes, I had the struggles in the first 5 races of the season, but after that I have looked absolutely rock solid. We've won, 6 races so far this season, 8 if you include the 2 sprint victories that I've had as well. So I'm feeling quietly confident about my chances of winning the championship this season. We just need to do a professional job in Brazil and Portugal, and hopefully not have a race from hell in Las Vegas, which it often is for me, just on the sheer fact that I'm racing around that track, which has absolutely no grip. It is pretty diabolical, all things considered. But it has led to some pretty memorable moments in years gone by, and we will see how that goes for us in this season as well. We are 3rd in the Constructors' Championship at the moment, so we would need Jack Doohan to find some form, but I kind of sense that there might be a bit of a changing of the guard here in Jaguar Racing. But that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.